Hey, Soul Stories fam. We're starting a new love journey. Tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe and join our family. Now stay with us. The story begins. Saturday afternoon in Manhattan. Sunlight slanted through the tall glass windows of Harper's Brew, a high-end cafe tucked in Midtown, where young professionals talked about stocks, fashion, and vacations that were never cheap. The scent of espresso mingled with vanilla and slow jazz from the ceiling speakers, creating an atmosphere that felt warm or cold, depending on whether someone was sitting across from you. David Prescott chose the table by the window. He arrived 15 minutes early, dressed in a tailored navy suit, a perfectly knotted ash gray tie, a Patek Philippe on his wrist. Everything about him was neat and refined, except for the titanium wheelchair he sat in, the one that had been part of him for 3 years since the accident that took away the feeling in his legs. On the table, his cappuccino steamed lightly. The silver spoon lay untouched. He checked his watch. The second hand glided on in silence. The girl he'd matched with on the app had texted, "I see you," and then nothing more. David looked up and caught sight of a young woman standing at the entrance. She wore a beige silk dress, red lipstick, and expensive heels. Her gaze hesitated for a second on the wheelchair, then darted away. A notification popped up on his phone. Something came up. Sorry, no emoji, no goodbye. He stayed still. A young barista came over to refill the water carafe, his eyes holding a trace of sympathy. David nodded politely, forcing a social smile. Inside, something quiet caved in. He tried to console himself with the kind of self-deprecating humor lonely people used. If every minute waiting counted as CEO time, I'd be a millionaire again by now. He pretended to study the menu, flipping each page as if seriously debating between a latte and a macchiato, while stealing glances at his reflection in the glass. Outside, people laughed, walked their dogs, took selfies, and hugged each other on crowded streets. And he, a 34-year-old man, once on the cover of Forbes, once feared by an entire tech industry, now sat like an outdated exhibit in a modern gallery. The afternoon light spilled down, glinting off the metal frame of his wheelchair like a cruel reminder. A streak of coffee dripped down the cup's rim. He didn't bother wiping it. Then through the heavy quiet, a small voice broke in. "Mommy, why does that man look sad?" David flinched slightly. The child's voice was clear, innocent, cutting right through the lazy jazz in the air. He turned. A little girl about 5 stood nearby with brown pigtails and a bright red bow, the only splash of color in the wooden-toned cafe. She clutched an old teddy bear, her hazel eyes wide and shiny. The woman beside her, Anna Wilson, flushed crimson. "Lily, sweetheart, don't say that!" Her voice was soft but firm, the kind of tone used by someone who's apologized for her child many times before. David chuckled, raising a hand. "It's okay. Kids tell the truth. At least she didn't call me a robot." Anna looked up, and he saw tired but kind eyes, the kind that still carried light after too much darkness. She wore a gray cardigan, her hair tied in a loose bun, and sneakers with a little dust, not glamorous like the women he used to meet. Yet something about her made the space feel calmer. Lily tugged her mother's sleeve, pointing to his table. "Mommy, he has coffee." "But he's not drinking it. If he waits too long, it'll get cold." She turned to him, tilting her head, her voice sweet as sugar. "Mister, coffee gets cold when you sit alone." "Want a drink with us?" The cafe chuckled softly. Anna, mortified, whispered, "Lily, I'm so sorry. She's friendly." David smiled. "It's fine. I think she just saved me from the coldest cup in Manhattan." Lily pulled out a chair and set her teddy bear on the table. "This is Mr. Buttons. You can talk to him until we come back." Anna laughed, a mix of embarrassment and warmth, then ordered another latte and returned, placing it before him. "Consider this an apology for my daughter's curiosity." David looked at the steaming cup. "Curiosity," he said, "is how every great invention begins, and every interesting meeting." Anna smiled faintly and Lily exclaimed, "Mommy, he talks like people in movies." Her laughter rippled through the cafe, making even the clinking of spoons sound brighter. David felt his chest lighten, a strange warmth traveling down his spine, a place he thought could no longer feel. For 3 years, he had grown used to pitying looks and conversations that ended before they began. But today, a 5-year-old girl and her mother had shattered that glass wall, simply by inviting him for coffee. When they left, David watched them through the window. The last rays of sunlight fell on Anna's brown hair, on Lily's red bow, a small streak of hope glimmering amid the steel city. The coffee before him had gone cold. He took a sip, bitter with a trace of sweetness, and laughed for the first time in 3 years. The coffee was still cold, but his heart wasn't. The following Saturday afternoon, Harper's Brew was as crowded as ever. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, glinting off latte glasses and scattering hundreds of tiny golden dust motes in the air, like flecks of gold drifting in slow motion. David Prescott sat in the exact same spot, the window table overlooking Lexington Avenue. His gray coat hung neatly over the chair, the titanium wheels of his chair polished to a mirror shine. He tried to look casual, but his eyes kept flicking toward the door. The one he knew a little girl with a red bow might walk through at any moment. He told himself it wasn't anticipation, just curiosity to see if she'd ruin someone else's coffee this time. But his heart knew better. He was waiting. The glass door swung open. A breeze carried in the scent of vanilla and the soft chime of the café bell. "Lily, slow down, honey," Anna's gentle, tired voice said. David looked up. She still wore her gray cardigan, her brown hair tied low, but today there was a cream scarf around her neck, simple, cozy, effortlessly warm. Lily was in a light blue floral dress, pink sneakers, and a brand new golden bow so large it nearly covered half her head. She waved at him, her smile bright as Christmas lights. "You didn't get lost this time," Lily squealed, running toward his table. David laughed. "Nope, I set my GPS before leaving home." She tilted her head. "What's a GPS?" "It's what helps grown-ups not get lost, at least on maps." Lily frowned, thinking hard, then declared, "Mommy should get one too." Last time she drove to Walmart and ended up at Target. Anna laughed, shaking her head. "Sweetheart, can we not share every family secret with strangers?" They sat together. A waiter brought Lily's hot chocolate, topped with 3 puffy white marshmallows floating like clouds. Lily took a deep sniff. "I love marshmallows. They look like the sky when it's soft." David smiled. "If you want, I could buy you the whole sky." Her eyes widened. "Do you have that much money?" Anna burst out laughing, shaking her head in disbelief. "Lily, age 5, professional silence breaker." David chuckled. "Highly skilled. I bet she never signs NDAs." Anna sighed dramatically. If only she did. The mood grew easy, light and natural. Lily dipped her finger into the whipped cream, licked it clean, then fired off a stream of questions. "What's your job? Do you have a dog? Have you ever met a famous person?" David answered everyone, patient and playful, as if on a talk show. "I work with computers. Tell them what to do and hope they listen. I used to have a dog, but he was too smart. Ended up becoming my boss. And the most famous person I've met," he paused dramatically, "is myself every morning in the mirror." Lily's jaw dropped. Then she burst out laughing. Anna tried to hold it in but failed, her laughter spilling out. Clear, unforced, warm enough to make nearby customers smile too. David tilted his head, caught off guard. Her smile wasn't like any he'd seen at the elite parties of New York's tech world. Not polished, not posed. It was real. And for the first time in years, being ordinary felt like the most extraordinary thing. Lily darted off to the pastry counter, mesmerized by the rows of muffins and cookies. Anna exhaled softly and turned back to him. "You're not what people expect," she said. David raised an eyebrow, half teasing, half curious. "And what do they expect?" "Distant, cold, the kind of CEO who only speaks through email." "Maybe they're right, unless someone walks up and asks why my coffee's still untouched." Anna smiled faintly, stirring her latte. The sunlight glowed across her hand, forming a small halo. "You're quite the smooth talker." "Not really. I just tell the truth. People usually see the chair before they see the person in it. Her expression softened. It wasn't pity, it was understanding. She was a nurse. She'd seen too many people lose themselves after an accident. She knew the cruelest part wasn't the loss of mobility, it was being seen differently. Quietly, she said, "I see the man sitting in front of me, not the chair he's in." Such a simple sentence, yet it struck him deep. For the first time in years, David felt truly seen. Lily returned with a muffin twice the size of her hand, crumbs already on her chin. "Mommy, can he help me cool it down?" David grinned. "I don't know how to blow on muffins, but I can give it my CEO glare. Works every time." Lily gasped dramatically, then laughed so hard she nearly spilled her chocolate. Anna shook her head, eyes full of quiet gratitude. The afternoon passed faster than steam from a cup. When they finally stood to leave, Lily waved. "Bye, Mr. David. I'll come back next week if Mommy says yes." "I'll tell my coffee not to get cold before you arrive," he replied. Anna laughed, dipping her head slightly. "Thank you. For today." The late sunlight poured in, coating her brown hair in honey, and turning Lily's golden bow into a ribbon of molten light. David watched them disappear into the crowd beyond the window. He didn't tell anyone, but he already knew his answer. He'd be back next week. Not for the coffee, but for the two people who somehow made it warm again. Half a cup of coffee sat forgotten, gone cold, but on his lips the taste of laughter still lingered. Saturday morning, Manhattan glowed like honey. The wind from the Hudson drifted down Lexington Avenue, carrying the scent of freshly roasted coffee from Harper's Brew, the cafe David Prescott had chosen as his recurring accidental meeting spot. He arrived 15 minutes early, as if to reserve a corner of memory for himself. The familiar window table, with just enough sunlight to cast a soft glow over his hand, flipping open the laptop, pretending to read emails. On the screen, the company's stock chart blinked, but his eyes didn't register a single number. Beside the laptop was a vase of yellow tulips the staff had placed there, and his third cappuccino at the same hour since that fateful first encounter. David chuckled to himself. How ridiculous. A CEO who once scheduled meetings worth millions, now feeling nervous over a 5-year-old girl and her mother. The doorbell jingled. He looked up, and he didn't need to see clearly to know the yellow ribbon had arrived. "Mr. David," Lily squealed, her voice so bright that everyone in the cafe turned to look. Anna followed behind, holding a small bag of pastries, slightly out of breath. "Slow down, sweetie, he's not running away." "But I was scared he'd change tables," Lily replied, pulling out a chair with a triumphant grin. David laughed, resting his elbow on the table. "Don't worry, I signed a lifetime contract with this table." Lily tilted her head wide-eyed. "How long is a lifetime?" "Until the coffee stops tasting good." "Then that means forever," she declared with complete confidence, making both Anna and David burst out laughing. A cup of hot chocolate for Lily, a cappuccino for Anna, and an espresso for David. The three of them sat around the small round table, sunlight streaming through the glass, creating a warm halo around them, like a quiet, happy scene from a film. Lily started talking, waving her hands dramatically, her voice full of pride. "You know what, Mr. David? My tooth fell out yesterday. I put it under my pillow for the tooth fairy, and this morning I found a shiny dollar." David widened his eyes in mock surprise. "Really? I didn't know the tooth fairy was still operating in New York." Anna smiled. "Trust me, that fairy swiped a credit card before leaving the cash." All three laughed. Lily rested her chin on her hands and looked at David curiously. "Did you ever lose a tooth, Mr. David?" "Sure did. But every time I did, the fairy only left me a dentist's bill." Anna burst into laughter, a little too loudly. Her hand brushed the cup, spilling a bit of coffee over the rim. She quickly grabbed a napkin to wipe it up, her cheeks turning pink. Lily giggled mischievously. "Mommy blushes when you talk, Mr. David." Anna stifled a laugh, while David chuckled for real this time, his eyes gleaming with a rare kind of joy. When Lily ran off to the pastry counter to choose a cookie, Anna leaned back slightly and exhaled. "You always make her laugh. I can't remember the last time I saw her this happy." "Maybe it's because she knows how to make everyone around her laugh too," he said softly. Anna smiled, gazing out at the street. "I used to think New York was a cold place, but somehow things have felt warmer since Lily met you. David said quietly, "Thank you. I think she's the one who taught me how to reheat my heart." A gentle silence settled between them. Amid the soft hiss of the espresso machine and the low jazz playing, they looked at each other. Not for long, just enough to notice that the light in the other's eyes was the same as the one from yesterday afternoon. Lily came back, holding a heart-shaped cookie. "Mommy, I'm going to share half with Mr. David." "Oh, thank you, sweetheart. I think this might be the sweetest investment I've ever made." Anna teased, "You always sound like you're signing a business deal." David shrugged. "Occupational habit. But today I'm signing with candy." They all laughed. The air around the table felt weightless. Before leaving, Anna pulled a small piece of paper from her bag and quickly jotted down a number. She placed it in front of him, her voice calm but her eyes warm. "In case you'd like to learn more about the real tooth fairy." David smiled. "I could use a professional myth verifier." Lily chimed in excitedly. "I can email you, Mr. David." "Mommy taught me how." Anna stroked her daughter's hair. "No, sweetheart. Let the grown-ups handle grown-up things." They stood up. Lily waved goodbye, her brown hair swaying in the sunlight, the yellow ribbon gleaming like a tiny piece of the sun. "Bye, Mr. David. I have a heart problem, but I'm not sad. Mommy says my heart just needs to love a little stronger than everyone else's." David froze. The smile on his lips faltered for half a second, as if her words had touched the deepest place he thought had long turned to ice. He looked at the small girl, those chubby cheeks, those sparkling eyes, and suddenly found it hard to breathe normally. Anna gently placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Come on, say thank you to Mr. David, and let's go." "Thank you, Mr. David," Lily chimed, her voice ringing like a bell. The cafe door closed behind them. David sat still, looking through the glass. Two small figures grew distant down the street. He wasn't sure when he had started longing for something this simple. An afternoon, 2 cups of coffee, a child's bright laughter. The espresso in front of him had gone cold. But this time he didn't mind, because he knew next Saturday he'd be back. Sunday morning in New York. The sky was startlingly clear, streaked with soft white clouds brushed across it like watercolor. David Prescott sat in his penthouse office, facing the wide glass window that overlooked Central Park in the heart of autumn. Below, the rows of trees shimmered gold, a massive carpet laid out by the season itself. On his desk, his laptop glowed with multiple open tabs. Hospitals from Johns Hopkins to Memorial Sloan Kettering. He stopped at one name. Dr. Aon Kuo, Chief Pediatric Cardiac Surgeon at Memorial Hospital. In the photo, the man was smiling, wearing glasses, and holding a plastic heart model. He looked both serious and kind. David bit his lip and murmured, "If anyone can fix that little heart, it's him." He pressed call. A woman's polite, distant voice answered, "Dr. Kuo's office. How may I help you?" "This is David Prescott." A pause, short but telling, as if she needed a moment to confirm she was truly speaking to David Prescott, CEO of Prescott Industries. "Yes, Mr. Prescott. How can we assist you?" "It's not for me," he said slowly, carefully, as though afraid to break something fragile. "It's for a 5-year-old girl. Her name is Lily Wilson." That afternoon, he went to Harper's Brew. This time, no suit, just a navy sweater and dark jeans. Simplicity looked almost foreign on a man who usually lived in pressed perfection. Anna and Lily were already there, the same window table, as though the three of them shared an unspoken ritual. Lily was busy doodling with colored pencils while Anna watched, her smile quiet but warm. David approached. "Sorry, I'm 5 minutes late. I suppose the penalty is a cup of cold coffee." Anna looked up, smiling softly. "You can make it up with a good story." She didn't get to go to the park today. Lily lifted her drawing. "See, this is you, this is me, and this is Mommy. But I don't know how to draw your wheelchair." David froze for a moment, then said gently, "You don't have to. Just draw the chair, as long as I'm still in the picture." Lily nodded, beaming. A while later, when Lily ran off to the pastry counter, David placed his phone on the table, his voice low but steady. "I wanted to tell you something. I called Dr. Aon Kuo at Memorial. He's one of the best pediatric heart surgeons in the country." Anna froze. Sunlight through the window painted her face in gold, but her eyes dimmed, her breath catching. You called a doctor? Her voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't go behind your back. I just have a few connections. He's willing to review Lily's file. She set her cup down. The quiet clink sounded louder than it should have. Are you pitying us, David? The air cracked open between them. He blinked, startled. No, that's not what I... You know, I'm a nurse, right? I don't need someone to help my daughter just to feel like they've done a good deed. Her voice trembled. Not with anger, but fear. The fear of being pitied, of that look she'd seen too many times from well-meaning strangers. David was silent for a beat. When he spoke, his tone was softer, stripped of defense, only truth. I'm not pitying you. I just can't stand knowing there's a child in pain when I might be able to help. Anna turned away, her gaze lost in the window, where strangers were laughing, unaware of how much strength it took for one woman to hold her pride together. The pride of a single mother, protective, fragile, tired of being seen as less. Then Lily returned, carrying an enormous brownie. Mommy, why are you sad? He's just trying to help. And helping is good, right? The adults fell silent. That innocent voice cut through every wall, every justification. Anna looked at her daughter, then at David. He stayed still, not pushing, not pleading, just waiting. She sighed, her tone gentler now. You don't have to do this, David. Really, you've already done enough. He smiled faintly, a smile that sounded like a promise. No, I'm just repaying a debt for the hot coffee you once gave me. Anna laughed quietly, small but real. You always say things that make me unsure whether to be angry or to laugh. Then laugh, he said, because your anger scares me more than convincing a world-famous surgeon. She held his gaze for a long time, then nodded softly. Thank you, David. If Dr. Quo can really help, then yes, let's do it. David's hand rested lightly on his cold coffee, as though he were holding a fragile secret. He knew she had just opened a door, a small one, but it was the first time she let anyone step inside her world. A woman who had worked in emergency rooms, who had watched too many children fade beneath harsh lights, was now gathering every ounce of courage she had left to believe again. He looked over at Lily, smiling, and broke her brownie in half to share with her mother. Mommy, she said proudly, Mr. David isn't bad at all. He's like Superman, but in a flying chair. Anna burst out laughing. Superman, who has to schedule heart appointments, only in our house. David laughed too, a full, genuine sound, warm enough to melt the last bit of distance between them. Outside, the wind swept through the golden trees, scattering leaves like a quiet celebration of hope. The coffee on the table had gone cold, but that afternoon was as warm as Lily's cup of hot chocolate. Monday morning, the New York sky was pale blue, the same shade as a hospital gown. On First Avenue, the Memorial Hospital for Children gleamed with glass panels that caught the autumn sunlight. The maple trees by the entrance had begun to turn red, their leaves glimmering in the breeze. Beautiful in a way that felt cruel, given the reason they were there. David gently pushed the door open, the wheelchair gliding smoothly over the marble floor. Anna walked beside him, holding Lily's small hand. The little girl wore a light pink cotton dress, a cat-shaped backpack, and wide, curious eyes that took in the bright white world around her. Rainbow murals, smiling animals, and floating balloons. It didn't look like a hospital at all, more like a place where someone had tried to turn fear into a gentle dream. Lily tilted her head and whispered, Mommy, this hospital smells like candy. Anna smiled, trying to hide the worry flickering behind her eyes. David bent down, his voice warm. That's the smell of bravery, kiddo. Lily giggled and squeezed her mother's hand tighter. Dr. Aon Quo's office was on the 8th floor, in a corner overlooking the park. The doctor, a thin, middle-aged man of Asian descent, wore silver-rimmed glasses. On his white coat was a small yellow star-shaped pin. When he stepped out to greet them, Lily whispered, Mommy, I think his name should be Dr. Sparkle. It fits him better. Anna blushed. Lily! But Dr. Quo chuckled, eyes gentle like a father's. Dr. Sparkle, huh? That's the best name I've ever been given. I'll take it. The tension in the room lifted immediately. David stood quietly near the door watching. His gaze never left Anna. She was doing her best to stay calm, to keep her voice from trembling as she explained her daughter's medical history. Dr. Quo flipped through the chart, his tone even but grave. Lily was born with a congenital mitral valve defect. The first surgery stabilized her condition, but lately her heart has begun to dilate again. I'm afraid we don't have much time to wait. Not much time. The words landed softly, but with the weight of a boulder. Anna froze, her lips trembling. You mean she'll need another surgery? The sooner the better. Otherwise, the pressure in her heart will continue to increase. It's not critical today, but it's progressing faster than we expected. David heard Anna's breath break. She sank into a chair, hands clasped tightly together, shaking. Her eyes stared blankly at the floor, as if the answer might be hiding there. I've tried everything. I've done everything I could. I can't. Her voice trailed off, breaking apart in the sterile air. Lily, still unaware, sat on the exam table playing with her teddy bear, softly humming along with the children's music playing in the background. The sight of it made David's chest tighten painfully. He rolled closer and gently took Anna's trembling hand. For the first time, she didn't pull away. Her hand was small, cold, and shaking uncontrollably. His voice was low, steady, but tender. You've been strong alone for too long. Let me be strong for you. Just for today. Anna looked up. His eyes, gray-blue like the sky before a storm, were fixed on hers. There was no pity there, only a quiet invitation to stand together. She drew in a deep breath, as if borrowing strength from the warmth of his hand. Dr. Quo stood, his tone calm and kind. I know this isn't easy, but Lily is a brave little girl. Children have a way of overcoming things that adults can't even imagine. Anna nodded, brushing away a tear. She squeezed her daughter's hand, managing a faint smile. You hear that, sweetheart? You're a superhero. The little girl tilted her head. So Dr. Sparkle fixes superheroes' hearts? Dr. Quo laughed. That's right. And Mr. David here is my assistant. Assistant? David feigned indignation. At least make me the chief financial officer of the superhero team. Lily burst out laughing, a sound so pure it filled the room. And Anna laughed too, though her eyes were still rimmed with red. Before they left, they passed a small gift shop in the hospital lobby. Shelves were lined with toys, plush animals, balloons, heart-shaped trinkets, and tiny glass stars that glittered under the lights. Lily stopped, her gaze fixed on a small crystal star spinning slowly on a display stand. The light refracted through it, scattering rainbows across the floor. Mommy, I want this one. Anna started to say no. The little sign read $28.99. But David spoke first, smiling at the clerk. Please wrap it for me. This is today's most important transaction. Lily hugged the glass star tightly, staring into its transparent glow, as if it held a tiny universe inside. I'm naming it Hope. Why Hope? David asked. She looked up at him, her smile bright as dawn. Because stars stay even when it's dark. Anna stood behind her, silent, watching her daughter. And this time, she didn't hide her tears. David murmured softly like a prayer. And when morning comes, it'll still be there, waiting for you. And when they stepped out of the hospital, the sky was still clear, but the sunlight had softened. David pushed the wheelchair slowly beside them. Lily held the crystal star high, letting the sunlight pass through it, casting little rainbows that danced across David's shirt. Anna saw it and smiled faintly. In that moment, amid the crowded heart of New York, they looked like a small family, unspoken, fragile, but real. And somehow, hope had begun to take shape. New York, 2:07 a.m. It was raining, not the violent kind, but a soft, steady drizzle, like gentle fingers tapping on the window, reminding anyone awake that sleep would not come easily tonight. In a small apartment in Queens, Anna Wilson sat by the window, the dim yellow light from the bedside lamp casting weary shadows across her face. In front of her sat Lily's pink backpack, neatly packed with clothes, her favorite stuffed bear, and the little glass star named Hope. Tonight was the last night before her daughter's second heart surgery. As a nurse, Anna had witnessed hundreds of operations, children who lived and children who never woke up again. She knew the statistics, the risks, the exact order of anesthesia, incision, suturing, and recovery. But that knowledge only made her fear sharper, heavier, more merciless. She wasn't just a mother praying for her child. She was a mother who understood what could go wrong. Her fingers trembled as she typed on her phone. "Are you still awake? I'm scared." A few seconds later, the words typing appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a message arrived. "Give me 20 minutes." 25 minutes later, a knock echoed through the door. Anna opened it, and the wind rushed in with the silhouette of a man drenched in rain. David Prescott, in a black sweater, hair soaked, shoulders glistening with droplets, the wheels of his chair spattered with water. He looked up and smiled faintly, his breath misting in the cold air. "I brought coffee. Not the kind that helps you sleep, but the kind that helps you forget fear for a while." Anna let out a weak laugh, taking the cup. The smell of hot mocha filled the tiny apartment, warm enough to chase away the damp chill. She looked at him, a wealthy, powerful man sitting there, soaked in rain, inside her humble home, and whispered softly, "Do you always show up when I'm at my worst?" He smiled. "I only take night shifts when the client is special." She laughed, the kind of fragile, unexpected laugh that broke the silence like a small beam of light. The living room was small, with cream-colored walls and a few crooked picture frames. One photo showed Lily at 5, grinning with an ice cream dripping down her hand. Another captured Anna holding her daughter in a field, wind tossing both their hair like twin flames. David sat beside her on the old couch, softer than he expected. Rain tapped gently against the window pane. Between them, the air smelled of coffee and something quieter, understanding. After a while, Anna spoke, her voice distant, like someone narrating her own story from far away. "When Lily was born, the doctor said she had a congenital heart defect. Her father couldn't handle it. He left 3 weeks later. I thought I'd collapse. But then Lily looked at me and smiled. Just a tiny smile, and it pulled me out of the dark." David said nothing. She went on, her voice catching. "I've worked night shifts for years, ER rotations, double shifts. Sometimes I'd leave one hospital just to run and pick her up from daycare. I've learned to live without sleep, to live with the sound of monitors in my ears. But I'll never get used to the fear of losing her." Her words grew slower, softer, as if even breathing might make the fear too real. David reached out, placing his hand gently over hers. Her hands were rough, calloused from work, but he held them like glass, fragile and precious. "Anna," he said quietly, "you've been strong alone for too long. Tonight, let me be strong for you." Something in her broke, not painfully, but tenderly. She didn't know when the tears began to fall. Maybe it was when he said tonight, because it sounded real, close, something she could finally trust. They sat there in silence. No comforting cliches, no empty promises, just two people in the dark, listening to the rain and the soft ticking of the clock, the distant hum of the city that refused to sleep. Anna turned toward him, her voice barely louder than the wind. "You know, sometimes I wonder why life takes away the people we love most, only to send us the ones we never expected to need." David looked at her, his gaze deep, steady. "Maybe because people like you know how to turn loss into something beautiful, like Lily, like her little star, Hope." Anna lowered her eyes, smiling through her tears. The lamplight brushed across her face, weary, peaceful, like someone finally setting down a burden, but still afraid it might be too good to be true. He watched her quietly, then said, "Tomorrow we'll be okay. I promise." Outside, the rain slowed. Far away, the wail of an ambulance drifted through the early dawn breeze. The first light of morning crept through the window, pale and fragile, falling across Anna's cheek, her clasped hands and David's damp hair. Two people, one in a wheelchair, one curled beside him, sat watching the horizon, where the faint light stretched upward, like a whispered prayer. The fear hadn't gone, but for the first time, hope had taken shape. The dawn was still incomplete, but enough to suggest that the storm was nearly over. The Memorial Hospital glowed like a star in a city that hadn't yet awakened. Dawn had barely broken, and dew still clung to the glass windows, reflecting the sterile, white lights of the long hallway. The air in the surgical wing carried that cold scent of disinfectant, mixed faintly with coffee from a vending machine. The kind of smell that kept you awake and warned you that today would be a long one. Anna Wilson sat in the waiting area, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white, her fingernails pressed into her palms, a small, desperate act to keep herself from shaking. David Prescott sat beside her, silent. He wore a gray sweater, its collar damp from the morning mist, and his hand rested quietly over hers, steady and wordless, like a vow. Through the glass of the operating room, the shadows of surgeons moved briskly under the blinding surgical lights. A small electronic board above the door blinked cold, merciless letters. In progress. Anna stared at it, whispering, "I've witnessed hundreds of surgeries, but I've never felt so small." Her voice trembled. As a nurse, she had stood beside the operating table countless times, handing instruments, reading vital signs, and sometimes holding a parent's hand, assuring them, "She's going to be fine." But today she was the mother, and mothers have no way to stay calm when a blade cuts into their child's heart. David squeezed her hand a little tighter, his voice low and warm, like a piano note echoing through the cold hallway. "You've done everything you could. Now it's their turn." Anna turned to him, eyes glistening. "You don't understand. Every minute here feels like a year. I've heard those machines beep all my life, but today, each sound cuts right through me." David's grip tightened again, his own eyes reddening. "I do understand, because for the first time, I'm scared of losing someone I never really had." They fell silent. Outside, the sound of rain against the window blended with the rhythmic beeping from the OR, a fragile symphony of fear and life. 3 hours passed. Anna hadn't moved. Her eyes were locked on the steel door, her lips moving in silent prayer. "Dear God, please keep her safe. I don't need anything else. Not happiness, not love. Just let her breathe, live, smile." David looked at her, a wave of helplessness washing over him. He had once commanded billion-dollar deals, shifted entire markets with a phone call. But now he was just a man watching the woman he loved break apart, powerless to ease her pain. He lowered his head, whispering as if to himself, "If I could trade, I'd give her my heart without a second thought." When the OR doors finally swung open, both of them stood up almost at once. Dr. Ayan Kuo stepped out, his white coat damp with sweat, but his eyes bright, like someone who had just come through a long battle victorious. "The surgery was a success." Her heart responded well. "Everything is stable." The words were short, but to Anna they were the most beautiful sound in the world. She collapsed back onto the chair, burying her face in her hands as sobs broke free. David reached for her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, drawing her close. She didn't resist. She just let her tears fall onto his shoulder. Warm, salty, alive. "Thank you, David. For the first time, I know what it feels like to have someone to lean on." He bent his head, his voice trembling, but steady near her ear. "Thank you for letting me be here, for letting me see the peace I never thought I deserved. Anna, I love you." She looked up, eyes shining, lips trembling, and nodded. No words were needed. 7 hours later, they were called into the recovery room. Lily lay on the white hospital bed, pale but peaceful. The monitor beside her showed a steady heartbeat. Beep, beep, beep. The sound of hope itself. David stood at the foot of the bed, his hands clenched, fighting the tears burning his eyes. Anna sat beside her daughter, gently brushing her hand. Her voice was barely more than a breath. "My sweet girl, you did it." Lily's eyes fluttered open, her long lashes trembling. Her voice was faint, but clear. "You stayed, Mr. David. I knew you would." David froze, his chest tightening. He bent over, blinking away the tear that slipped free. Of course I did, kiddo. I promised, remember? Lily nodded weakly, her lips curving into a tiny smile. Anna watched them, and for the first time in years she felt a sense of peace. No more operating rooms, no more fear. Just the steady heartbeat and the man beside her trembling. Not from fear, but from joy. She turned to him, her voice breaking softly like silk. You know, some people come into your life just to save you once, but I think you're the one who stays. David looked at her for a long time. In his gray-blue eyes, the hospital light shimmered, like the tiny glass star Lily had named Hope. He reached up, his hand gently cupping her cheek. His voice was a whisper, like a prayer. I didn't come to leave. I came to stay. Then he kissed her, in the recovery room, under the cold fluorescent lights, with the monitor's rhythm pulsing steadily beside them. It wasn't a kiss of passion, but of gratitude, between two people who had survived the storm and found a heart still beating. Outside the glass window, Dr. Quo stood watching, a soft smile on his lips. He turned to the nurse beside him and said quietly, a successful surgery is one thing, but it looks like another heart just came back to life too. Inside, Lily had drifted back to sleep, her small hands still wrapped around her mother's fingers. Anna and David sat close, saying nothing to each other. Beyond the window, the setting sun cast a golden reflection on the building across the street. The monitor's gentle rhythm continued. Not just the heartbeat of a little girl, but of three souls beginning a new chapter. Because sometimes, for a heart to truly live again, all it needs is someone who chooses to stay. Winter had returned to New York, but David Prescott's penthouse had never felt warmer. On the 40th floor overlooking Central Park, the morning light streamed through the curtains, spilling across pale wood floors and white walls. The apartment no longer held the sterile chill of a billionaire's solitude, the kind once filled only with the hum of a coffee machine and the clack of a keyboard. But now with laughter, off-key singing, and the smell of burnt eggs. Mr. David, smoke! Lily squealed, pointing at the pan where David was trying, with the concentration of a man closing $1 million deal, to flip an egg that had clearly given up hope. He frowned, voice serious, as if analyzing a corporate crisis. The problem isn't the eggs, it's the pan. Anna laughed behind him. No, the problem is you added the oil 5 minutes too late. He shot her a look. You say that like you've won a cooking competition before. No, she teased, but I've done enough night shifts as a nurse, and my breakfasts have less smoke than yours. They all burst out laughing. David carefully plated the golden brown eggs, with a few darker patches than planned, poured milk for Lily, and asked solemnly, all right, Judge Lily, what score does Daddy David get for his first breakfast attempt? Lily rested her chin on her hands, pretending to think deeply before announcing, 6 out of 10, because the eggs stick to the pan, and you forgot the salt. David chuckled, nodding. Fair enough. Still higher than your rating for my first coffee. Anna groaned, laughing. Because you added 2 spoons of salt instead of sugar, David. After breakfast, Anna went to do laundry. She crouched beside the massive washer, a machine smarter than any computer she'd ever used. David rolled his chair to the doorway, leaning on the frame. Should I get insurance for those clothes? No need. Just a few shirts. A few minutes later came a soft beep, followed by Anna's alarmed shout. Oh no, David! Your sweater? She held up his once luxurious gray cashmere sweater, now shrunken to half its size. David stared at it for a moment, then laughed. Perfect. Now it fits Lily's doll. Anna blushed, laughing helplessly. I just killed the most expensive thing in your wardrobe. That's fine, he said, his voice playful but tender. If it bought me that laugh, I'd trade the whole closet. Anna froze, looking at him. The morning light slanted across his face. His eyes, once cold and distant, now bright, warm, and startlingly alive. Lily sat on the floor surrounded by colorful LEGO bricks. I'm building our 3-story house, she announced proudly. David smiled. Who lives on the top floor? Mommy. And the middle? Me. And the bottom? Daddy David, she shouted, because you have wheels. It's easier to roll around. Both adults burst out laughing. David leaned forward and tapped her nose gently. Then make sure my floor is clean. CEOs need a proper workspace. No, she said seriously. This is home. No CEOs, only Daddy David. The words froze him for a moment. Daddy David. 3 small syllables echoed through the wide apartment, hitting a place in him that had long turned to stone. He remembered the years spent alone, living among glass and steel, in silence so thick that laughter felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. And now, with just one child and one woman, they had turned this place into something he never thought he'd have again. A home. That afternoon, Anna sat on the couch reading while David watched Lily draw. She sketched 3 people holding hands under a smiling sun, with crooked letters spelling out, "Our family." David looked at it, lips curving softly. "I used to have an empire," he murmured, almost to himself. "Now I just want 2 girls and a smile." Anna turned toward him, eyes tender, steady. "Then you already have them." Outside, the sunset washed over the city, turning the skyline to honey and fire. Inside the penthouse, the golden light covered the 3 of them. A man, a woman, and a little girl carrying a tiny glass star in her heart. No music, no grand gestures, just breathing, laughter, and the kind of peace people spend their whole lives searching for. David looked at Anna and Lily, his gaze full of quiet gratitude. He was no longer the cold CEO of Prescott Industries. He was simply Daddy David, a man learning how to fry eggs, shrink sweaters, and smile because of the warmth inside this small, imperfect home. Outside, the city kept moving, but inside, he had finally found where to stop. Weekend sunlight poured through the wide glass windows, spilling gold across the pale wooden floor of the penthouse. On the rug, Lily Prescott, self-appointed CEO of Lilly Enterprises, was running a Lego corporation with stuffed animals as her employees and David as her financial advisor. "Daddy David, where's the quarterly report?" she demanded, hands on her hips, her tone so serious it was almost comical. David feigned panic. Which quarter? The cookie quarter or the gummy bear quarter?" Anna, filming the scene from behind them, laughed so hard her phone trembled. "You'd better prepare your documents. That CEO doesn't go easy on anyone." "I'm working on restructuring the bedroom department," he replied smoothly, making her laugh even harder. Lily frowned at both of them, shaking her head. "Adults always talk nonsense. I'm docking points for both of you." Laughter filled the spacious apartment, a sound that over time had replaced the lonely hum of the coffee machine and the monotonous buzz of financial news. That afternoon, they went to the Hayden Planetarium together. Under the high dome ceiling, light scattered into millions of stars swirling across the sky. Lily sat between them, face tilted upward, her round eyes reflecting the spinning galaxy above. "Mommy," she whispered, "do stars love each other too?" Anna chuckled softly, but before she could answer, David spoke, his voice low, gentle, echoing in the darkness. "They all do if you look closely enough. They just need to be near enough for their light to touch." Anna turned toward him. In the pale blue glow from the dome, his face appeared calm, deep, and tender. So tender her heart skipped a beat. She spoke quietly, almost just for him to hear. "You're teaching my daughter about the universe, and I'm learning how to love again." David smiled, saying nothing, only tightening his hold on her hand in the dark. Above them, thousands of stars turned slowly, small souls of light moving in silent harmony. That night on the drive home, Lily had fallen asleep in the back seat, clutching her new toy. David reached over and placed a silver, star-shaped plush in her lap. "You bought that while she was asleep?" Anna asked softly. He nodded. "Every star needs a friend." He brushed a hand over Lily's hair, his voice warm and quiet. "What did she name it again?" Anna looked at her daughter's peaceful smile and whispered, "Hope." The car rolled through the city at night, lights glimmering across the windshield. Their reflections, 3 faces side by side, looked like a family bound not by name, but by the simple faith that love can heal everything. And in that home, love wasn't loud or dramatic. It was just enough. Enough to remind them that every heart, no matter how broken, can learn to beat again. Monday morning, the Prescott Industries Tower rose above Manhattan like a blade of silver steel. On the 60th floor, the boardroom air was so heavy it could have cracked glass. On the giant screen behind the table, bold words glared. Emergency board meeting, CEO performance review. Robert Bradford, the company's second largest shareholder and David's longtime rival, stood up, his voice sharp as ice. We need to reconsider our leadership position. A CEO who's constantly absent, distracted by personal matters. Can he still lead? Several members avoided David's eyes. Others stared down at their papers, silent. David sat still, calm, composed, hands interlocked on the table. His black suit was immaculate, his expression unreadable, but his eyes were cold and bright, like polished steel. Bradford pressed harder, his words deliberate daggers. A CEO in a wheelchair, preoccupied with his private life, is a liability to investors. This company cannot run on pity. Still, David didn't speak. He let them burn themselves out, let the room tighten, and only then did he push his wheelchair forward slightly, voice steady and low, every word slicing through the tension. I missed 3 meetings because my daughter was undergoing heart surgery. If that's a crime, I'll take full responsibility. But judge me by the numbers, not my legs. He clicked the remote. The screen lit up with charts. Quarterly revenue up 15%, the highest in 7 years. Employee satisfaction at 95%, the highest in company history. Prescott Renew Clean Energy Project just signed a $300 million contract. He turned back to them, voice firm but calm. I don't need your sympathy. I need you to see the results. Love hasn't made me weaker. It's given me something worth fighting for. I used to lead out of fear of failure. Now I lead to build a world where my daughter, and yours, can grow up proud. A moment of silence, deep, unbroken. Bradford forced a smirk. Pretty speech. But the company needs logic, not philosophy. David's lips curved slightly. Logic, then? Logic suggests that employee turnover dropped by 30%. Logic says the stock value rose 7% last month. Logic says people who care, truly care, work harder because they believe in something bigger than profit. An older finance director rose to her feet. I lost my husband to a job that cared more about work than life. I support this CEO, the one who remembers what life is worth. Then one hand went up, another, then 10. Final count. 9 votes in favor, 3 against. Bradford's jaw tightened. His face flushed crimson. David nodded, smiling faintly but with quiet power. Thank you, everyone. Prescott Industries stands strong, not just on profit, but on heart. He willed himself out of the room as the sound of small, genuine applause followed behind. Late afternoon, the penthouse door opened and the scent of pizza and laughter spilled out before he even crossed the threshold. The champion's home, Anna called out, wearing his oversized shirt, a pizza box still steaming in her hands. Lily ran straight to him, arms wide. I saw it on TV. Daddy won. David laughed, pulling them both into his arms. His voice was warm, teasing. I didn't know you two were keeping up with the news. Guess I'm the CEO of love now. And I'm your logistics director, Anna grinned, in charge of pizza and faith. He looked at them, his heart full in a way spreadsheets could never measure. Outside, the Manhattan skyline burned gold beneath the sunset. Inside, soft light wrapped around the 3 of them, a small family that had weathered the storm armed with nothing but love. I used to have an empire, David thought, as Anna rested her head on his shoulder. Now I just need 2 girls and 1 smile. Morning sunlight shimmered over Manhattan after a night of rain. Golden rays slipped through the curtains, spilling warmth across the wooden floor. In the living room, David Prescott was bent over the coffee table, arranging things that looked nothing like the work of a CEO, roses, chocolates, and a small navy blue velvet box. He checked everything for the 5th time, inhaled deeply, then exhaled softly. From outside the bedroom came a sleepy, curious voice. What are you doing, Mr. David? He turned startled to see Lily standing at the doorway, hair tousled, clutching her stuffed bear, Hope. He hesitated, then crouched down and whispered, as if sharing the world's biggest secret. I'm planning to marry your mommy, but to do that, I need her daughter's approval. Top secret, okay? Lily gasped, covering her mouth, eyes wide. Marry mommy? Really? Really? Then can I be the donut flower girl? You can, but no telling anyone until we get to the park. She nodded solemnly as if signing a classified treaty. That afternoon, Central Park glowed under the golden light of sunset. The lake shimmered like glass, reflecting the blue sky. A few ducks glided by in perfect formation, leaving ripples as calm as the city's quiet heartbeat. David sat in his wheelchair, wearing a white shirt and a light gray vest. In his lap rested a bouquet of yellow tulips, the kind Anna once said looked like little suns. Anna arrived with Lily, holding 2 cups of coffee, her hair tied loosely, a smile tugging at her lips when she saw him. You invited us for a walk, but you're dressed like you're heading to a job interview. It is an interview, David replied, eyes sparkling, for the most important position of my life. Before she could say more, Lily ran toward the lake. Mommy, can I feed the ducks? Careful not to slip, Anna called after her, then turned back to David. You seem nervous. What's going on? He gripped the bouquet a little tighter. His heart raced, not from fear of rejection, but from realizing that everything he'd ever wanted was standing right there. He took a deep breath. Anna, I used to have everything. The company, the power, the money. Then an accident took my legs, and I thought it had taken the rest of me too. Then you and Lily came along, brought me back to life, to laughter, to light. I can't promise I'll walk again, but I promise I'll stay forever. He opened the velvet box. Inside was a simple platinum ring, catching the amber light of dusk. Anna froze. Her hand flew to her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. A breeze swept across the lake, carrying the scent of grass, sunlight, and something she thought she'd lost forever. Peace. You're insane, she whispered, trembling. But yes. David laughed softly, closing his eyes for a moment as the tension dissolved into relief. He reached out his hand. Anna knelt down, sliding the ring onto his finger, and in that instant, the world seemed to stop spinning, leaving only 2 souls, once broken, now finding each other again beneath the New York sky. Tiny footsteps pattered behind them. Lily ran over, her face glowing, hands sticky with crumbs. Mommy, why are you crying? What did Mr. David do? Anna laughed through her tears. He just surprised Mommy, sweetheart. Lily spotted the ring and gasped. So now you're really my daddy? David chuckled, opening his arms to both of them. If you'll let me be. I will. But Daddy has to make breakfast. And no burnt eggs this time. Their laughter drifted into the golden air, mingling with the rustle of leaves. A few yards away, Thomas, David's longtime driver, stood quietly by a tree, phone in hand. He smiled and snapped a photo just as the last ray of sunlight fell on the 3 of them. Locked in an embrace. It was the picture David would later call the moment everything began. That night, as New York lit up outside their windows, the 3 of them sat together in their warm penthouse. Lily proudly stuck the newly printed photo on the refrigerator, right between her crayon drawings. Below it, in bright red marker, she wrote, "The day Daddy promised to stay." 1 year later, winter had returned to New York, yet the sky was unusually bright. Pale sunlight streamed over snow-covered rooftops, wrapping the city in a white and gold glow, cold but gentle, distant yet strangely tender. On the 40th floor of the Prescott penthouse, laughter filled the air. Today was a small wedding, David and Anna's. Just close friends and family. Nothing grand, nothing loud. David wore a deep navy suit, his wheelchair gleaming like new, his hair neatly combed, his eyes radiant. Anna stood beside him in a simple white dress. Lily twirled around them in a puffed pink gown, clutching a basket of rose petals, shouting with delight, "Mommy, Daddy, and stand closer!" Uncle Thomas says closer looks better in the photo. Laughter erupted. The whole room glowed with the kind of joy that didn't need decoration. Quiet, real, full. Dr. Aon Quo arrived a bit late, still wearing the small gold star pin on his white coat. He shook David's hand, then turned to Anna and Lily with a warm smile. "The most successful heart transplant I've ever seen," he said. "Three hearts that learned to beat as one." David laughed softly. "You're the one who made that miracle happen." The doctor smiled, shaking his head. "No, the miracle is them, the ones who know how to love, and to be loved in return." After the ceremony, they sat together in the living room, watching snow fall beyond the glass. New York stretched below, a sea of lights. Inside, the penthouse radiated the warmth of a true home, not from heaters, but from three hearts beating in sync. Lily lay curled between them, holding her glass star, Hope, the same one she'd kept since her surgery. The snowlight refracted through it, scattering tiny prisms across the white walls. "Mommy," she said softly, "I remember when I used to get tired after just a few steps. Now I can run all over the park." Anna smiled, stroking her hair. "That's because you're brave. You're Mommy's miracle." David sat quietly, his heart slowing into a rhythm of peace as he watched them. Over the past year, he had continued to lead Prescott Industries, but he no longer raced against the world. He spent mornings teaching Lily piano, building Lego castles, and learning to find joy in small things. He learned from Anna how to cook, how to breathe more slowly, and how to trust again. Everything that once felt complicated had become beautifully simple. He used to believe love had to be extraordinary, something wild, cinematic, larger than life. But now he knew the most extraordinary thing was getting to live an ordinary life with the right person. Outside, snow began to fall thickly. Lily sat up, leaning against her mother's shoulder. The warm light from the lamp bathed her now rosy face, healthy, bright, glowing like a tiny sun. She turned to David, eyes twinkling. "Daddy, can I name the baby?" David blinked, startled, glancing at Anna. She was smiling, one hand resting gently on her stomach, a motion so small it made time itself pause. "Baby?" he whispered. Anna nodded, her eyes shining. "The doctor said it's still early, but it looks like we're getting another miracle." Lily squealed, hugging her mother's belly and kissing it softly. "Then I want to name the baby Hope, like my star, because hope helped me live. So now I'll give it to my baby brother or sister." David chuckled, his voice low and tender. "Deal. But you know, you're already our hope, the brightest one of all." Anna leaned into him, her hand still on her stomach, whispering, "Do you remember the first day we met?" "Of course," he murmured, "a cold cup of coffee and a shy smile. And now," he squeezed her hand, his words a soft breath, "now I have a whole universe wrapped around me." Outside, snow fell quietly, blanketing the balcony and rooftops below. Inside, the golden glow from the wall lamps lit up three smiling faces, a tableau of warmth framed by winter's white. Lily lifted her glass star high, its reflections sparkling in their eyes, scattering light like thousands of tiny galaxies. For a brief, perfect moment, it felt as if the whole universe had gathered in that room, glimmering within the hands of a little girl named Hope.